You're listening to the Christian Indie Artists and Songwriters Podcast, the place where faith, music, and life intersect. We exist to help Christian indie artists and songwriters just like you get songs heard. Hey guys, I'm so excited to be here with my friends Jess and Dan, all the way from Australia. How you guys doing today?
Hi, great to be with you.
How's it going?
Awesome. Well, I met these guys actually through a really great group called the Worship Circle, which is a Todd Fields ran group of worship leaders that he just poured into us and just taught us, so much about just being worship leaders and not so much just on a stage, but just worship leaders in life. We're here with, like I said, Jess and Dan from a group called Inside Out, all the way from Australia. So guys, I'm really interested to know just your story. And so how did you guys get into music in the first place?
Well, I think both of us had really musical backgrounds. I grew up in a country music town in Australia, and had musical parents.
Yeah, for me, my parents are missionaries in Indonesia, so we grew up in Indonesia, and I was always just drawn to worship.
Yeah, so we both, we met in Youth with a Mission in about 99, I think it was, 99.
Yeah.
And we were set up to lead worship together by a friend. And we sort of met and, we just sensed that there was a synergy. We didn't get together for another sort of couple of years. I think we travelled a bit and didn't quite connect back again for another couple of years. But, there was a sense that God was wanting to use us in music together. I was doing a little EP, and so we recorded on that. Yeah, from there we, got married, got together, and, really felt a sense of call that God had called us together to use our musical gifts and especially our heart for worship together. I think we got married 2004, and one of the first things we did, there's an independent Aussie label here at the time. We signed with them and we did an EP or a CD at that point, and we toured around Australia a bit. That was under my name, Jess Hammond, and it was more sort of just contemporary Christian music stuff, which is great, but I think there was a hunger for us to really dive deeper into worship writing and just creating spaces where people could encounter God, in a really real way through worship music. That's how we'd been really impacted, and that was a really big part of our hearts. So long story short, we finished with the label, and then we felt God leading us to sort of call ourselves Inside Out and go independent. That was actually in 2007, 2008, around that time. So we've been called Inside Out for that amount of time, and we recorded a few EPs and toured a little bit, but at the same time, our local church had invited me to go on staff as the worship pastor there, and Dan was doing a fair bit of graphics and some other stuff. So the journey sort of was, we were running the worship for our church and then doing Inside Out kind of on the side, I guess. When we could, we'd play at other churches and write and record a bit of stuff. And then we had kids and everything kind of, everything went at a slower pace for a long time.
From inside out to upside down.
Yeah, literally. It's always been in our hearts, and we sort of just focused on really the church ministry at that point, and we'd still do bits and pieces where we could. At the end of last year, I just really felt that it was time to transition out of the church staff role and focus on being an itinerant ministry. So I guess at the start of this year, we relaunched Inside Out as kind of our main time thing. And we've just put a lot more energy into trying to get back into writing and releasing some new stuff. And now, like, we weren't really planning on doing any online stuff, but actually we're doing online live worship and all of this stuff we hadn't really even planned on. So a whole new world has opened up for us this year, which we weren't really expecting, but it's all due to COVID. But we knew at the end of the year that God was transitioning us into a new season. So it's exciting and a bit scary, and stepping out in faith again, which we haven't had to do for a long time, which is nice and scary as well.
Yeah, sometimes I feel there's this, I forget where I saw it, but there was this chart that I saw. It was like a large circle and then there was a dot on the outside of the circle. And inside of the circle, it said comfort zone.
Yeah.
And on the outside, pointing to the dot, it said where the magic happens. So in this case, it's, living in that comfort zone is nice, but I feel like I know that, like we've talked about, our story is we're definitely treading on the outside of the comfort zone these days as well. So understanding that, like, when we need to lean on God in those seasons more than ever, because we're, nervous, anxious, excited, all of the good and not so good emotions sometimes, but that's what kind of leads us into the new place. And the interesting part is that at one point that, outside of the comfort zone will become our new comfort zone. And then we do it again.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Like, we wrestled for a number of years around, is it time to step out? Is it time to, just stay where we are? And God clearly kept saying, you've just got to hold your post and stay where I've planted you. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, now it's time to step out. And that sense of the uncomfortability of being where we were was greater than the uncomfortability of stepping out. And we just knew that it was time to make the jump, which was, it was interesting because I never thought that God would ever say it's time to jump out now. So, and we can really see why now. We see, it's so interesting, been seeing a lot of people in transition towards the end of last year. And I can so see now in light of COVID how God was kind of strategically reassigning people. It's quite amazing how he just moved people to where they needed to be for this new season and equipping them for this really unexpected season. So, it's pretty cool.
That is amazing. God is like, to take a quote from, were you guys in the session with Kim Walker?
I think so.
So I remember she talked, and this is like a really defining thing for me personally, when she was saying how she kept getting this one scripture from people who were telling her about the scripture. And it was when it said, like, God will lead us to the desert sometimes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I know personally, like, I feel like I get to the desert by accident because I did something wrong.
Yeah.
But really what she highlighted and what's really stuck with me is that, when we're in the desert, that's when we're relying on God fully, because without God, we're when we're not in the desert, we're like, oh, we got this, we've got everything we need. We're cool. Like, but really in those desert seasons is when, we're like, God, where's the manna? Come on, we're dying here.
Yes.
So just like what reminded me of that is what you just said is like, he was preparing some of us for the transition, leading us to the desert. So that way, when basically the floor dropped out from a lot of things, like some of us would be more prepared, or at least more in regular conversation with God. So when things changed rapidly, we could kind of handle it a little bit better. Not that it's been easy.
Yeah.
But at least we had like kind of a heads up whether we knew it or not. So I love that you said that. To talk about, Inside Out, I know that, it's worship and it's you two, sharing and writing songs, but there's some resources and things involved in that too, right?
Yeah. So I think when we relaunched at the start of this year, we sort of felt, and it was probably inspired a little bit by what Worship Circle do as well, which is, mentoring and providing support for worship leaders. We felt like we just wanted to be able to use all of our resources to be able to serve churches. So we've had a pretty good connection with a lot of our local churches and our particularly our denomination. And I think we just wanted to be able to sort of take a step outside of our own local church to serve lots of other churches. So our talents combined is music, it's media, it's mentoring as well. So when we relaunched Inside Out, there's sort of three main focuses. So one of them is mentoring. I've started mentoring a few different worship pastors here in Melbourne, in Australia. Then media. So we've been creating media for churches. We feel, and again, we didn't know that everything was going online, but we are able to create sort of readings or worship intros or, anything that's going to help worship services. We've got that side of things. And then we've got our own music. So we've been able to record and write some new stuff, but we've also been working on just a bank of local worship songs that churches can access. So that's probably been the biggest way we've been able to serve. There's about 8 or 9 churches that have just accessed those songs regularly, or we've done particular sets for churches just to give them a break. So, if they're just hit the wall with having to produce their online content. We've just said, hey, let us lead for a week, be the the guest worship leaders or whatever. So that's been really great, just to see how we can reach out and connect with lots of different churches and provide support for them. And again, it's always evolving. It's we feel like we're responding to whatever needs come up, and that changes a little bit week by week. But that was the sort of sole purpose of stepping out this year, was to be available to serve churches however they need the church, the capital C church, rather than just our own church. So,
and I'm like hearing such a theme of just like good stewardship, as God is, like you said, you're primed with your skill set for online help, and like calling you out into this season where like God's like, hey, you guys, this is the time. Like you kind of felt like it sort of almost came out of nowhere, because you kind of felt maybe, and then all of a sudden it was like definitely now, before anything even happened. And the whole time, your songwriters, your worship leaders, your media, your AVL, you understand all of those things, and that's exactly what the church, capital C and lowercase c, needs right now. So that's incredible that God positioned you in that way, and then you're just ready to respond. And then I keep having this inclination to ask you, like what your 1 year vision, 2-3 year vision is, but it almost kind of sounds like you're just sort of arising to the need, and maybe that's what ministry really is like being available to serve the need. Can you speak to that at all, of your experience in that way?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. We did, at the start of this year, we mapped out a plan of sort of what we felt God was leading. And a lot of that actually naturally happened, but then a lot of new stuff evolved. And the amazing thing was we just finished this renovation at the end of last year, and to build a studio space. And over the years, Daniel's been buying all these different bits of equipment, lighting and mics and all this stuff, which sort of sat there for years at different points.
And this has kind of all justified me buying all these toys.
All these toys.
Of course. We're using everything, which is great.
Now, at the moment, we're using every single piece of equipment we've ever bought. I think a lot of it was been having conversations with churches. So before COVID hit, there was a group of local worship pastors that used to gather maybe quarterly. We'd have lunch and chat. But this year we've been meeting at least monthly, just on Zoom. And for us especially, it's been, let's just really hear what the needs are and try and respond. And all the churches we've been working with, it's all been out of relationship. So it's relationships we already had with people. So I think that's really key as well. We don't want to be out there just flogging stuff for the sake of flogging it. We want to be able to serve out of relationship with the churches that we have. Yeah, and those times of connecting with the worship pastors has been really powerful. I think people have just needed support and needed to be able to chat through things together. So yeah, I think you're right. This whole year has been, about adaptability. I think that's been a big theme. And for churches in general, like they just had to adapt to so many things in a really short period of time. So I feel like God's wanting to push us all to be more agile. And we're thankful for our YWAM background, Youth with a Mission, because that was very much a part of kind of the DNA of that movement, is responding to those, how God pushes you in those areas. So yeah, I think this year's been very much about responding to the needs, but also discerning what God is saying in a particular season, what to take on, what not to take on, and to be able to be wise with what He's leading us to do, I guess.
Yeah, that's one of those things, right? Because, in business or in ministry or whatever, or, we're always feeling like we have to say yes to every single opportunity, or else we're going to let something go that's might be, the thing, whatever that means, but like what you're saying, what I'm hearing is so good, it's like, sometimes you really do have to just pray about it and discern, what the next move is, because ultimately, one of my life verses in Proverbs, and it's many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's the purpose of the Lord that will prevail, and like, that's major, because like we have lots of dreams and lots of desires in our heart, and like that's not a bad thing, but sometimes I feel like that can maybe take precedence, and like we get so, I know for me, like getting
Yeah.
so like hyper focused on like this is what I must do or else I'm a failure or whatever, or I'm blowing it or whatever, but sifting through all of that and delighting in the Lord, and
Yeah.
like he'll just, and because when we do that, it may not look anything like what we thought it could, but
Yeah.
honestly, in my life, I know, and probably in yours too, like every time it doesn't look like what we thought it could be, it's way better. Yeah. Inside Out is just a really cool thing. I've been watching you guys. We watch you guys from afar and love all the things you're posting. And I know that you guys are doing great things. So that's really awesome. I also wanted to ask you, I like to ask people like, what would be some advice that you would give to your, past younger selves when you're first getting into this thing that you feel might be encouraging to the listeners, and just in general, some wisdom that you share with your younger self?
I think I'd say maybe ties into what we said earlier is about there's different seasons in your life, and it's a matter of sometimes you just have to trust in God's timing for where you're at, to just keep realigning to hearing his voice and what he has for you, and even the passions and desires that you have in your heart. A lot of that is actually given by God, breathed by God too. So and you might not see the fulfillment of those things until later on. So it's a matter of just trusting that he's got you in his hands.
Yeah, probably similar. I guess maybe two things. First, I guess don't freak out. I think I get really impatient, and I still do. And I probably need to say this to myself at the moment. Like just trust God's timing, that whatever he has in store, he's going to bring about. So just don't freak out about timing. Don't freak out about that you've maybe that you've missed it, or that you've missed what he has for you, because he has plenty of time up his sleeve, and he knows exactly the right timing. And then I think the other big lesson is just stay in your lane. And I think for me particularly, it's easy just to look at lots of other worship ministries and lots of other groups out there that are just smashing it and doing great stuff, and to compare yourself and to be like, oh God, what why, when's it our turn? Why aren't we, getting as much traction or whatever as we'd like? But just to trust that God has you where he wants you, and that he has you in a certain season for a reason. For me, that's the constant. Yeah, I think that's the constant challenge. So to be able to say to myself, don't look at what everyone else is doing. Just focus on God and focus on staying close to his heart, and he will make the path clear. He will work out the way forward. So. And to be content, to delight yourself in him, like just always make that the priority. I think that's there's double-edged sword with social media, right? It's like it keeps us connected. It helps us reach out and find new people and new ways to, do things for the kingdom. But at the same time, we get to see everyone's highlight reel. So like, look at how great everyone, but the reality is it's everyone's highlight reel for the most part. Yes.
So
yeah,
it's easy to be like, man, well, look at that. That's awesome that they're going to do that. Why, when's our timing and stuff.
That's one thing we really appreciated about the Worship Circle ministry as well, is that, Todd has all these, worship leaders that are really well known with really huge sort of followings. And yet you're conversing with these guys, you're getting mentoring from all these great worship leaders. But the one message just still comes across, which is, God doesn't care about how big your platform is. Whoever he's placed in front of you is the people that you're meant to be ministering to. So don't judge your worth on how big your platform is. And I love the fact that he's highlighting this particular message, because I think, for all of us, there's a sense that we'd love to have more exposure, more whatever, but God's economy isn't the way of the world, and God's priorities are different. So I think I just love the fact that there's that message for all of us that's being highlighted, that God's got you where he wants you, and the people value the people that you're ministering to, the people that he's put before you, because that's kingdom.
Yeah. And it's, it's the low-hanging fruit principle. It's like there's things that we all look up and we all want to grab that's maybe not meant to be within the season we're in, but if we just can be satisfied with the things that God's given us now,
Yeah.
then we can, move into the next day and then
Yeah.
probably grab something else. But I know, for me and for a lot of people, we're always looking to like the top of the tree, but like,
Yeah.
that's not for us yet,
Yeah.
and that's where the patience comes in, right? Man, well, this has been really great. And I'm thankful that you guys, it always blows my mind. You guys are in Australia, so you are literally you're in the future. How is the future? Is
the
it bright?
other end of the world. It is, yeah.
That's right.
It is today. It's nice and sunny in Melbourne today, it's usually pretty rainy. Melbourne, Australia, not Melbourne, Florida.
Yeah, which is super ironic because I'm in Melbourne, Florida, and you're in Melbourne, Australia. It's good to know the future is bright, though. So how can people find you, interact with you? Where can we find Inside Out? Give people the lowdown. And I'm going to put all this stuff in the detailed notes and the links and everything, but tell the people how to find you. Yeah,
cool. So our website is insideoutlife.com. I think Inside Out was taken when we
.com.au.
insideoutlife.com.au.
Okay.
And Instagram's also insideout_life. Facebook's just Inside Out. So yeah, you might there's lots of Inside Outs out there.
Okay.
So even Spotify and iTunes, but you can, if you need help, go to the website. All the links are there.
Well, that's awesome. And one thing I want to do too before we wrap up here is I would like to pray for you guys and how God's working through your ministry. So I'm going to pray. God, thank you so much for Jess and for Dan and for all that they're doing, God, and how they're being just so obedient and so flexible to all the things that you're doing for them and through them. God, I just pray that their ministry continues to expand at the pace that you need it to, Lord. I just pray that the people of Australia are blessed and then beyond are blessed by all they're doing, their stewardship, and they're taking their skills and their gifts and their talents and they're glorifying you with them, whether through songwriting or leading worship or media or church resources, whatever it may be, Lord. God, just continue to highlight the steps ahead of them so that they can continue to serve you and your purpose for them in their lives. Lord, I pray blessing over their family. And I pray that just as they're wrapping up this, all this stuff with the pandemic, that they're going to enjoy some fresh air and enjoy some FaceTime with some family and friends as all this stuff becomes a memory and it will all be shaped by it, Lord. So let them just be reminded of this time and how you put all these things, because in your kingdom, nothing is wasted, God. So that as their efforts are just completely abundantly magnified and multiplied in this new season, God, I just pray that, they continue to seek you through it all. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
We want to help reach as many Christian indie artists and songwriters as possible, and one way we can do that is with your help. So if you could take a minute and leave us a review on iTunes, that would be so appreciated. This is how the iTunes algorithm will push this content out to more and more Christian indie artists and songwriters. So like I said, if you could just take a couple seconds, leave us a review, that would be so awesome, means so much to us, and we would really appreciate it.